All right, joined by Attorney General Liz Murrill. A lot has been going on in the last couple of weeks. Let me just start off with this question. Many people watching this right now feel like all guns are out. Everything's against New Orleans right now. Is everything? Do you like the city of New Orleans? Let me start off with that.
Of course I do, and I think that that's always been a convenient narrative. I think to again try to attack the work that we're doing here. I mean, I've said from the beginning, we're not leaving. We're here, we're gonna stay here, and we're doing some really good work here. I mean, I've had a total of 1,500 cases on the criminal docket here, have about 750 that are currently active in that courthouse. So, we're invested here. I also have risk litigation that goes on here. I have a lot of staff here, and of course I come here and we all come here, and we value the city of New Orleans. I think that whoever it is that narrative is convenient for continues to press it.
That you're an enemy of the city of New Orleans,
correct,
which you claim you were not.
Well, of course not.
So we're going to circle back to the indictment and the answers that you're seeking as we keep going here. But how are your partnerships with the city of New Orleans? Because there are residents, and that's who we ask questions for. The people watching this, there are residents that are concerned. They feel, hey, is state police still going to help New Orleans? Is the Attorney General still going to prosecute cases and help New Orleans? So the question is, are you still going to be a partner with the city of New Orleans?
So the answer to those questions is yes, we are. We have no intention of leaving, and that work continues. So it doesn't require me to meet and talk with Jason Williams. It operates entirely separate, really, from his office. That work is going to continue the way that it always has.
Could you, or should you meet with him, or do you need to meet with him to keep this partnership up? Because look, when you first were elected and took office, y'all were on different sides of the political aisle, but then you came together. Everybody, I think most people don't like the divisiveness. Most people are in the middle. They celebrated that partnership. Do you have to meet with him, or can you keep doing this work without having discussions with him?
I can keep doing this work without having discussions with him. Our relationship will continue to be, at least on my end, it will continue to be a professional one. We don't need to be friends. I don't need to meet with him to be able to do my job. I haven't needed to do that to do it all of this time. I'm disappointed in Jason Williams. I really am. I think that we have had a good working relationship. We've had a good personal relationship. I think he destroyed that, and I still think that he is responsible for putting the entire sequence in motion with an irresponsible letter to the city council who he doesn't advise, by the way. That's one of those things that I keep pointing back to is, when has he ever given advice to the city council on civil matters? They have their own lawyers.
Right, they have the city attorney.
So all of a sudden, out of the blue, Jason sends a letter giving them advice on something that is a civil matter, and they say, our lawyers told us we had to do this. He's not their lawyer for civil matters, and their lawyers, to my knowledge, did not tell them. But again, my public records request would show that. If they were getting advice from other or recommendations from somebody else, and that was public record, then I would be able to get that through my public records request.
So people see you on TV. They know what you do for a living. They know what you do for a living. You have deep ties to the city of New Orleans that people may not realize. There's kind of this stance going on right now where, hey, New Orleans has to be like every other parish in the state, that you have to get in line with courts and judges and clerks of court. But for all practical purposes, New Orleans is New Orleans. It is nationwide the city that people talk about when they talk about Louisiana.
Yeah, but that doesn't. So there are a lot of special things about New Orleans, of course, but that doesn't mean that you need 2 clerks of court. That doesn't mean you need to have more judges than any other parish or judicial district that has greater population and higher caseloads. Like there are metrics by which those things can be judged, and it's simply inadequate to simply say, New Orleans is different. New Orleans may be different in a lot of ways, but it doesn't need to be different in that way. And so I think, the question needs to be, what exactly it is that the legislature is trying to do. And by the way, I mean, I've said this before, I wasn't involved in those things.
You're just
but I'm
upholding
being
the law of
indicted for them,
You're
right?
just upholding, in your defense, is it your case that you're upholding the law of the legislature?
I'm defending the law of the legislature.
And
Correct.
you're just defending it.
Absolutely.
Is it
and I did get public records requests on that, by the way. There are no records
is it
because I didn't have anything
to
do with it.
Is it unfair that people may be targeting you for moves that the legislature made? I mean, look, Jay Morris authored a lot of these bills that got passed. There were lawmakers outside of New Orleans, but is it unfair that you're being targeted by acts of the state Senate and state House?
Look, I think it is wrong beyond, and it is absolutely extremely damaging to our criminal justice system and to the public's ability to have faith and trust in that system to weaponize the criminal justice system, to take it out on somebody that you think is responsible for legislation with which you disagree. That is targeting, and it is unfair, but more importantly, it's illegal. It's illegal to weaponize a grand jury and conspire with a grand jury to indict the state attorney general if that's in fact what happened. It is wrong to weaponize the system and bring criminal charges against someone who is doing their job and is acting within the proper scope of their job based on the Constitution, the statutes, and the particular statutes that I was writing about when I wrote to the council.
Final question. You took some action recently seeking answers. The case against you is completely dismissed, no more criminal charges, but you and your legal team want answers. You want to know if anybody did something they shouldn't have. Is this over, in your opinion? Because people said, hey, we want to move on, because elected officials in New Orleans have said, I want to move on. Is it over, in your opinion?
I mean, look, if I was targeted through jury tampering through a conspiracy to rig a grand jury proceeding and indict the sitting attorney general, and that's a personal indictment, right? I mean, that's not saying we're indicting a state official for acting in her state capacity. They indicted me and charged me with 16 crimes as an individual. So I'm entitled to have answers, I think, and if it is appropriate, then I would file a civil action for malicious prosecution. We're not there yet, and I'm just going to continue to conduct an investigation in terms of my ability to get public records. The criminal investigation is outside the scope of my control, and I really don't know where it stands.
So we've asked public officials, did you play a role in this? They said no. Do you think people are lying about that? Do you think people had to have known something and leaked this?
Well, yeah, I mean, we know they did. We know that the press called me and told me about a grand jury proceeding and what was being discussed inside the room. We know that Lori White called Pat Fanning before the indictment came out and had a conversation with him, and magically, 8 more counts appear for malfeasance. I mean, we know that Helena made a video with holding up the public intimidation law. I don't think she read it, but she held it up and declared that I had violated it. We know that Jason has declared himself a victim of something that, as a matter of law, doesn't even fit the statute. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that were done wrong here, and I still think that they have a lot to answer to.
Final question here. A year from now, you're up for re-election. You plan to seek re-election next year?
Of course I do. Yeah.
4 years after that, Governor?
Yeah, don't know yet. I'm planning to seek re-election as Attorney General. I love this job. All of those other decisions will be later decisions, but I do love this job. I'm very committed to it. I have, worked with a great team of people. We've expanded our ICAC unit. We have a whole new agent registration portal for agents and who are representing high school or college athletes in NIL deals. We are working with the sheriffs and with the district attorneys across our state to protect and ensure that people get justice.
All right. Attorney General Liz Murrill, we appreciate your time.
Thanks.